Hi everyone, are you looking for a one-person shelter that's suitable for the taller person, but maybe has enough room inside for two? A shelter that can be erected as one and weighs less than 1.7 kilos. Well, the excellent value for money Luxe Lightwave might be just right for you. Ideal for backpackers and cycle tourers. Stay tuned, we'll put it up and see what it's like. The Lightwave, what does the package consist of? So let's have a delve in. So we have a pack of pegs. We have 10 pegs with this, 10 cross pegs with reflective cord, so they're easy to see, find and retrieve. Little pack of sealant. Now the material used to make this tent is siliconized on the outside of the tent and PU coated on the inside, and the seam sealant is for the outside. There is another video on how to apply seam sealant, so I do suggest you check that out. And then we have the tent proper, of course, with the poles. Now the maximum or the minimum length those poles will fold down to is 45 centimeters. So for the cycle tourers, that's the figure you're interested in for packing into your panniers. The whole tent, if you were to wrap it up and put it back in the bag, is about 46 centimeters by about 15 centimeters. But generally when I'm doing that sort of thing, I tend to separate everything off anyway. It makes packing a lot easier. So we have our tent, we have our sealant, we have our pegs, we have our poles. Now let's just put it all together and see how easy it is to pitch. Okay, well the first thing you want to do, as with any tent, is peg it down so it doesn't blow away in the wind. Fairly lucky today, it isn't windy, but it is just spotting with rain, which is a bit frustrating, but that's life. Obviously putting the tent where you want it to be, we want the door to be. So we'll just pop in the 4 first pegs, just lightly to, as I say, hold it in place. So we have the main rectangle laid out. We just need now to pop the pegs in, pop the poles in even, and hopefully it'll start to take shape. The 2 end poles need to go in a particular way up. You'll see that there's a nipple at one end and a flat end at the other, so you make sure you put those in the right way around. Which is flat end at the top and nipple at the bottom. Now we've got the 2 end poles in. The main thing to do now is stick the main pole in, and the tip with this is to make sure the pole is completely connected before you try and put it into the socket, otherwise you can end up with an error. And the pole is has got a nipple on both ends, so it doesn't make any difference which way around it goes. And you just find the channel, which is just on the outside of the shelter there, and slide the pole in. Now, rather than push the pole, pull the material to the pole. It saves any potential damage to the channel material, and once it is exposed at the other end, which it almost is now, you can then place the nipple in the appropriate socket And then hopefully, as you start to ease the material down the pole, the shelter will suddenly take shape. You're looking for the socket for the pole to go into. It might be tight the first couple of times you do this, so just take it easy. And I've just got to get the pole into the socket. So if I can just get myself into position. You're looking to pull the tab down, the grommet down, and slide the pole in like that. Now the reverse, while I'm here, the reverse of that is not to pull on this cord to separate the grommet from the pole. Actually, the tip is to put the pressure on the inside of the pole there, on that material, and push the pole up, and it comes away quite easily. So it's pull the grommet down to put it in, and then pull the inside tab downwards to release the pressure on the grommet to take it out. Okay, so let's now tidy it up. We just need to put a couple of end pegs in, pull these poles upright, and then we'll have a look at a couple of the features of the shelter, which I think will be of interest to people, particularly with ventilation in mind. So we just get the pole just slightly at an angle so it pulls away from the center. Don't put any tension on it until you've got the peg in. And you can tidy it up a bit. Like all shelters, the idea is that you get it erected first of all, then pop round afterwards and tidy all the tension up. That's starting to look a bit more respectable now. As I say, you get 10 pegs with this, which allows you obviously 6 pegs at the moment, 2 more at the bottom of the main pole, and then 2 more for the guys. So you've got plenty of pegs to keep it stable should you wish to do so. Let's pop a couple of these in, but I'm not going to bother with the ones at the bottom of the pole. There's no need for that. There's really no need for these, but I'll put it in just to take shape. And of course all the guys are reflective guys, which helps you when you come back from the pub at night to find where you left your shelter. Now for those who are interested about the height and the length, as I say, this is quite good for the taller people. The pole height inside here, the headroom is 1.18 meters or 118 centimeters, and the pole height at the end, sorry, I tell a lie, that's 108 centimeters, and the pole height at the end is 58 centimeters, so which allows you to obviously sleep on a thicker sleeping mat. The internal length of the inner, not the outer, the inner is 2.25 meters. Now I'm 6'2", which is about 1.8, and as you'll see when we get inside, there is plenty of room. But it's the ventilation is what I really like to talk about. Let's just tuck this out of the way. Okay, so let's flip over to tent cam, and at the foot of the tent here. Now what I'm going to do is just undo these clips to show you the ventilation options. He says, which are just simple sprung-loaded clips. Right, there you can see one of the ventilation boxes, which opens completely like that. So if you're concerned about ventilation when you've got one or more people in here, or a wet dog or whatever else, you can open both ends, and one is slightly larger than the other. You'll also notice that the actual amount of covering from the shelf area there on the outside would certainly prevent from any ingress of water unless it was a horrendous storm. Right, I'm going to flip round to the other side and I'll show you the other end. So I just need to undo a few of these clips that clip the inner in and get down to the bottom. And once again you can see that there is a good amount of ventilation. And again, there is enough of a shelter on the outside, the materials covering, to not really trouble you. So it'll allow the air to come through and hopefully reduce down. The biggest problem on certain types of weather is when you have so much condensation on the inside. This ventilation will certainly help. Okay, so I'll pop it back together here and I'll leave the ventilation flaps open and we'll put the actual cam inside the tent so you can see how much room there is. So I've got the camera at the wider end, which is 118 centimeters wide. This end is 92 centimeters wide. So it does, you can see, you could easily get two sleeping mats in here. There's 108 centimeters internal height. Again, I'm 6'2". So as you can see, I'm quite happily sitting here. The head is just touching the top, especially if I was on a sleeping mat, it would be touching the top. Let's swivel that round. We'll put the camera at the other end and you can see how big it is that end. But what we really want to see is how much space there is when somebody is lying down. How can I do that, I wonder? And let's put the camera at the other end and try again. So swapping the camera over and getting in my entire length. My feet are now at the bottom and I've still got that much space above my head, which hopefully makes you realise just how roomy this is as a shelter. The other thing you can do, obviously if you have to cook inside, not that we would recommend it, you can undo the floor and slide the floor back to give you more vestibule space. And certainly when I tend to use a tent like this, I tend to use my walking pole and prop the door open slightly, which allows me a good view, plenty of ventilation and space to sort my stuff out. But as you can see, quite a large shelter, and certainly for one person like me, plenty of storage space inside and out. And what else can you hope for, really? The mesh is midge proof, so you're not going to get troubled by the wee beasties, and there's a couple of pockets for storing stuff as well. So that's the inside of the Lightwave. So that's the Luxe Lightwave. The only final thing to touch on before it starts to rain, because it's about to, is where to seam seal it. There is instructions on the website, but basically the stitching, which takes the most tension obviously from the main pole, either side of the stitching on the outside and down the zip, down the seam just above the door there. That's the two areas that will take the most pressure. The secondary areas would be just down there and the same on the other side. So a very, very quick seam sealing job to do. So I think I've probably covered most things. That is the Luxe Lightwave, fantastic value for money, 1.7 kilo tent, ideal for somebody up to say 6'4", 6'6" possibly, and space for one more should you need it. But there's plenty of internal space as well. So there you have it, the Luxe Lightwave 2.